think the key with a pitch is imagining what it's like for the person who's reading it. So if you imagine the average job of an editor or a deputy editor who's commissioning things like this, we get a ton of emails constantly. So basically making it easy for them to decide what the top line is. So my best advice would be have a think about what your top line is and how you make the job easy for the person you're sending it to understand exactly why this pitch is great, what's exciting about it, what's newsworthy about it, and what's interesting about it. So my top tip would be make sure in your strap line, remembering that maybe somebody won't even get to the third or fourth line or even the second paragraph, what is the big line, what is the big idea, and what is the exclusive or interesting content that this idea has that you bring. The next thing that's really important is making sure you set out exactly what you're going to offer that particular programme in terms of access, exclusivity, or sequences. So set out the people that you've already spoken to and what they might say. Basically, a kind of fait accompli of what would this look like, how does the idea work, this is how I make it work, and making the person you're contacting feel that you're completely across the story and you'd be able to do it all yourself or with their help, but you understand the breadth of the story in a way that makes it a one email punchy extravaganza.
I suppose the first thing is nobody ever really has an original story. Everything has been done before. So what I'm looking for when somebody's pitching something to me is I want to be surprised. I want an element of, oh, I've not heard that before. So if it's an ongoing story, have you got access to something exclusive? Have you got somebody who's never spoken about it before? Have you got first into somewhere? It's got to be something that makes you think, I've not seen that take on that story before.
Three important things. Is your story very relevant to my audiences? The second thing is, have I already done this story before? If yes, does it give me a fresh angle, unexplored angle? Yes, then it's fine. The third would be, does it have the what we call multi-platform ability? That is, can it be treated to different audiences on different platforms, whether it is radio, television, or online or social media, or Instagram, Facebook, that kind of things. A fourth extra would be, can this story travel well across the BBC? Will the BBC English outlets take it? Will other BBC languages be interested? Those are the important considerations.
The most important thing is you need to know what your story is. Don't give me a theme, don't give me an issue or several issues, give me one line, one story. If you can't explain your story in one sentence, then you should go back and think about it. Because if you can't explain it to me, I probably can't make a story out of it either. That includes you should do your research. Be sure it is a story. We can, finesse some of the smaller details, but you need to be sure the story is a story and you have the elements and you can gather them. The more realistic, the more detailed your pitch is, the more successful it's likely to be. That includes doing a budget. Please be realistic. I know it's tempting to, try and, cook the numbers a bit and make them quite small and think, we can get away with fewer hotel nights, or maybe we don't need to take a producer. At the end of the day, that probably won't work, and it may be detrimental to the quality of the product. Lastly, I think you have to be very clear about who is your audience, who is my audience. I represent global output, so the question from me will be, well, that's a very nice story, but why does a global audience need to hear about this story? Why would they care? Why would someone watching BBC World News in India want to know about this? And you should be able to answer that.
The most important thing is that you are absolutely clear about what you want to do. It's crucial that whoever reads a pitch that you write has a very, very direct and accurate sense of what it is that you've got in mind with the particular subject. The next thing to say is do not propose films based around issues. You may think that a particular issue is of great importance and a film should be made about it, but it's a complete turn-off to anyone reading it. Much better to propose in the form of a story. And by a story, I mean a concrete, exact thing that is happening in the world with characters that you can follow and unpack, that is specific, but which also says something much, much more general about the issue you want to draw attention to. So, for example, if you wanted to make a film about water shortage in the Middle East, let's say, you could say it's now possible to walk across the River Tigris in Baghdad. You know, that's an extraordinarily kind of vivid, concrete image that you can have, and from that you can say, how are people living with this? Are they having to drill wells in order to give themselves water? Okay, so the bigger thing that you want to draw attention to is water shortage, but the specific example is a vivid visual instance which you can then put your human stories around. Okay, the second thing I'd say is access. One thing which always works to your advantage is being able to offer access to something that other people cannot. That shows that you have researched a story thoroughly, it shows that you've thought about what's needed, and you're offering people something they haven't seen before. Television is boundlessly hungry for the new, for things it hasn't seen before. And so if you can say, I've got access to this person who's never spoken, I've got access to this place where no one's ever been, I'm offering you a hidden world, that is a winner, almost invariably. The last thing I'd say is that it's really important to be clear about why you want to make a particular film, tell a particular story. And ideally that's something connected with you. It's because you have a particular passion about it, or it's because you've got, as I said, the particular access to it, or because you have an angle on something. People have always thought about a particular subject in a certain way, but you're going to approach it in a different way. That's purpose, that's what you have to offer, that's crucial.
I would like to hear well-informed and studied ideas. I want to know why we are doing it, what impact we do expect. I need color and imagination. What I don't need, definitely, is vague and uninformed ideas.
It's a massive mistake to put loads of blather. Think about the person you're emailing and the volume of the emails that they receive. You've got to make sure you don't put too much detail. You probably know this story or this idea inside out. You're probably extremely passionate about it, and you've probably spent many woman or man hours looking into it, but they're not, and they haven't got the time to read it. So you've really got to think about, what are my best 3 things here? What's the newsline? What's the exclusive content? Why should you do it as a programme? And you've got to really go for those things. So no blather, no overly personal things. Maybe get a friend to read it beforehand. Don't use lots of exclamation points. Don't use lots of kisses, for example, accidentally done sometimes. And don't be overly familiar. And please make sure you spell the names right and you don't have typos. I promise you, sad but true, I sometimes get sent very good ideas, but they get my name wrong and there's loads of typos. And it gives the impression that you're not professional and able and capable in delivering something that otherwise might be a brilliant idea. So do double check those emails before you send them.
So the pitch should always be really simple, straight to the point. If you can't explain it in 2 sentences, it's not worth it. You've got to be able to grab somebody straight away so that they instantly know, oh, that's what the story is, and wow, that's why I'd be really interested in that.
If you can get to somebody or a place that's never been told before, that is always a winner for television. Can't be stressed strongly enough. Television is constantly thirsting for the new, and the fact that you can offer somebody or something or somewhere that has never been shown before, or somebody who's always refused to speak, is almost invariably a winning thing to have in your pitch. So really think about that.
Another example is Rupert Wingfield Hayes' trip on a boat to find some secret Chinese islands in the South China Sea. This is something that everyone had written about, heard about, that had been rumors, but no one had actually gone and seen them. And his pitch was quite simply, okay, I'll get on a boat and try and find them. That was the one-line pitch. Obviously, it got much more complicated afterwards. There was, budget involved, all sorts of high-risk considerations, quite elaborate plans. But that's the kind of story that really makes impact globally. That would be picked up by other media as well. People would be watching world news and going, wow, okay, have you seen that? And that's the kind of story we're looking for.
I think with Newsnight, it's particularly difficult, but also particularly exciting. It's like Schrodinger's Newsnight. What's particularly difficult is that we have a very high bar for the things that we do. So we're doing global leaders, global stories, we're doing huge issues and ideas. So if you're coming to us, what you really want to make sure is that you're hitting the right bar. So say, for example, you be doing a film about Yemen or something to do with a world leader that you might have an in with. That's the kind of thing that we're looking for. Something which politically has a newsline that we don't know about, some access that you can offer that we don't have access to, some exclusivity that means that the rest of the BBC will be clamouring for that content, or a particular contact or interviewee that you have access to that we don't. So everything is focused around the highness of the bar, the content itself and the quality, the access, and absolutely essentially the exclusivity. And that's one thing I would really be wary of. Be careful who you offer things to. Don't be offering them to everyone. Try and think about who you want to go to first with an idea. And then if they say no, go elsewhere and put a strict deadline on it. Because we're all really crazy busy, and it's nothing personal or disrespectful towards anybody who pitches, but it's really useful to know what your deadline is to make sure that if we say no, you can take it somewhere else to make sure your idea gets to air.